In this video, you will learn how to make 5 essential modern trance and hard house presets. I'm Nick from the Producer School and welcome back to a brand new sound design video on our channel. Today I will explore with you the process behind some of our most popular presets from our recent pack Ecstatic, which is a modern trance and hard house pack. This video will include a bass, a chord step, a pluck, a synth lead and a synth pad. In this video I will dive into the structure, the modulation and of course the effects of the sounds, so that you can also apply all the techniques on these sounds onto other sounds you're making yourself. And I think learning sound design that way is the most valuable. For now, let's dive straight into this video. First sound we're diving into is this bass, which is kind of like an offbeat saw bass with some heavy OTT multiband compression, and it sounds like this. And for me the sound just sounds really fat and it's really simple to make in Serum. So in this video I will just take you through the process of creating these sounds from scratch. So we'll just open up an init preset and then just recreate the sound in there. So right here I have an init patch, and the first thing that I'm going to do is select the corresponding wavetable, which in this case is the basic mini saw wavetable. And we're choosing this one because it just has a bit more of analog character than the regular saw wave. And in this genre we're basically kind of recreating sounds from the 90s and from the early 2000s. Where they only use analog synths. So that's the main reason why in this pack you see a lot of these wavetables being used. So we're now going to pitch it down 2 octaves, and then you will get a basic saw sound like this. And then the first thing we're going to do is utilize a filter, and we're going to use the MG-Low 24 filter, which is the harshest filter you can get in Serum. And we're going to add some basic white noise to the sound as well and route it through the filter as well. Now we come to the point where we want to shape the envelopes, and envelope 1 can just be shaped something like this. And in this case we're going to do a technique which is basically similar to what you do on the Moog. Envelope 1 will only modulate the amplitude of the sound itself, but for the rest we won't modulate the filter with it, as we're going to use envelope 2 as a separate filter modulation, and that one we're going to make a bit shorter. And now let's drag that to the MG-Low 24 filter and add some drive as well, maybe even put the volume up a little bit. Okay, alright, so just keep shaping it till it's sounding like more perfect. And then we head on to the FX section and add a diode 2 distortion. Anything above like 15% at this point gets a bit too gritty, so 50% is the right balance, I think. And now maybe the most important step is adding this multiband compressor to get that OTT effect on the sound. However, in this multiband compressor we want to get rid of these highs to like 20%, as otherwise they would kind of take over the sound, and then your mid and lows would get less prominent, and we're still making a bass, so that's really important. Let's see what that sounds like right now. Now let's play around with the filter a little bit more. And now you have this offbeat kind of trance sound. Now let's move on to the sound, which is a chord sound with a perfect fifth in it, which sounds like this. I have an init preset right here again, and let's now add 2 basic mini saw wavetables once again. And then once we have loaded it in, pitch it down 1 octave for both of them. However, to get this perfect fifth sound, we need to pitch either A or B up 7 semitones. So in this case, let's pitch up oscillator B 7 semitones, and then the sound will immediately get recognizable. Basically, the envelope for this sound can be untouched as well, as we just want it to sound like an ongoing vintage kind of sample. And then we can just play around with the MIDI length in order to get that stuttery kind of effect. You can give it a tiny bit more of release, but that's about it what you need for this sound. Then we want to add some analog noise. So in this case, I really like to use the Juno 106 noise. Then we roll off a little bit of the high end with an MG-Low 6 filter. Make sure everything is linked through it. And we can also add some drive through this filter. Now we're going to set LFO1 into free rate and then set it to 0.9 Hertz. And start linking these to some various parameters. And first of all is this fine tuning on both oscillator A and B. And this basically recreates the imperfection of these analog synths. And this is too dramatic, so we have to decrease that. And then also add it to the MG-Low 6 filter. Just to add some movement, just a tiny bit. And then for this sound, the effects section is really vital, as we're basically using almost all of the effects. And we're starting off with a tube distortion, just to add a bit more of grit to the sound. Let's also increase the master volume. Then add a flanger effect on 50% and pull down the rate. This already gives you that flanging effect on the whole sound. Add a little bit of chorus, but increase the filtering right here. And that just widens the sound, but we just want to do this really subtly. Then a bit of delay and reverb. Set the delay to ping pong mode and make sure to bring back the wet level and add a short reverb. We also want to drag this EQ after the distortion and get rid of some of the low end, and you can use a bit of like resonant peaking. And then after the delay and reverb, we want to add a phaser, so the delay and reverb also gets a phasing effect. And now you get a really vintage kind of sounding chord step, which is really usable in the current hard house sound. and it sounds like this. Now let's move on to the next sound, which is this classic trance supersaw plug, and it sounds like this. So the sound itself is not hard at all to make, but it's just a very, very effective sound that you can basically use in any genre. So in this case, we're going to the analog wavetables once again and select this M saw. And then we are going to copy it to oscillator B as well. Both give them 6 voices of unison, and oscillator B needs to be slightly more detuned. Then pitch up oscillator B 1 octave and bring back the level to like 40 or 30%, depending on like your flavor. And this will function as some kind of high support layer into the sound. So right now it just sounds like a supersaw. Let's increase the master volume and shape envelope 1 something like this. Now let's open up an MG-Low 18 filter and once again use another envelope as the filter modulation. Give it some release, something like this. Make sure all of it is linked through it, and then we want to add some noise as well. So in this case, let's go for a tuno, a high pass noise once again. And then the main trick for this sound is we want to add velocity modulation to the filter. So let's put that in. What it does basically is you can now modulate the filter slightly also with velocity. So now it sounds like this, and then we just need to play around a little bit. Add some drive. And if you have a MIDI keyboard, you can then drag the mod wheel to it as well. And that makes it really easy to hear what it sounds when you modulate it, like in a build-up or something. And then we also want to add some fine-tuning modulation just here, just very, very subtly. And then the only effects we want to put on this are basically a delay very subtly in ping pong mode and a bit of reverb. A really, really typical trance sound, but just really effective. So now let's move on to the next sound, which is this Stutter trance lead right here. And it sounds like this. So I initialize it once again and then start working. So it wouldn't be a surprise anymore if I say that we open up 2 basic mini wavetables and then we pitch down oscillator A and we pitch up oscillator B. We add some voices of unison to both of them, like 8 and 6. And we want this to be quite detuned, so we just increase the detune to like 0.35 right here for both oscillators. And now you get this really wide and detuned sound, which covers a pretty full range of the spectrum. And some vibrato to the low lead. Then we can just detune the fine tune on them both manually a little bit to get that analog sound. And right now we have the basis to work and start modulating to get that sweepy and stuttery sound. So first of all, we want to add a bandpass 12 filter right here. And this is going to be modulated with an LFO to get that kind of sweepy effect. Let's also bring down the level of the high so it doesn't get that prominent. And turn up the master volume. And then add some drive. And we also want to add some glide right here. So increase the portamento time to like 130. Because this is really a lead that you can like glide notes into each other. And now the main part of this sound will be the modulation, where we're going to create the stutter effect. So we're going to add a new LFO and just shape it something like this. Put it on 1/4 rate and then head to the matrix right here and select LFO 3 as a source and link it to the global amplitude, which is basically just the volume of your serum. Once we start to increase the amount, you will immediately start to hear that stutter effect. You don't want this to be 100%, so you just drag it to, for example, 60%. And then you can just like adjust the band filter as well to your taste. And maybe make it a bit less that sounds better. And now we can finish the sound off by adding some tube distortion and some delay and reverb. If you want the high lead to be more prominent or less prominent, just play around with the level. Then the last sound is this trance gate pad, which sounds like this. So I init it once again, and once again open up two saw waves, one with 12 voices of unison and one with 6 voices of unison, and we drag down the detune for both a little bit. The main part of this sound is definitely envelope 1, which is going to modulate and create the whole pad sound. So add a lot of attack, like 1 full second of attack will do the job here. And then just add some release, like 200 milliseconds. You immediately get that super saw pad kind of vibe to it. And now we're going to add a LFO to some different parameters to really make the pad moving, because that makes the whole difference for these kind of sounds. When you play it like this, it already sounds cool and like a pad. However, there's not much life in it, and you just want to add some more modulation to it in order to make it sound better. We want to change the shape of the attack a little bit, so like this. Maybe a bit more release. And let's also add some noise. And now let's start to do the modulation. So one thing you can modulate is the panning. And you can also modulate the filter. Make sure to also link the noise through it, otherwise it will sound weird. and for example the fine tuning on one of the oscillators. Once again, you can link the modulation wheel to quickly get like an idea. So that already sounds nice. And some delay and reverb. You can also add a simple effect like a chorus. And then lastly, I will show you the trick once again to do the stutter effect, because that will just make this pad sound more trancey and just in general make this pad sound better. And then you can do something like this, maybe a bit less harsh for a pad, and then LFO2 and link it to the global amplitude, and then start playing around with it. It's now maybe clipping a little bit. And now you can just adjust the filters and all that stuff to your taste. But this way you can really easily make a trance gate in Serum. So that was it for this video. I showed you guys 5 essential trance and hard house sounds. And I hope you guys learned a lot from this video, not just the sounds in specific, but also just the little tricks that I showed you throughout the video. If you want to check out more sounds like these, head over to the link in the description where you can find our new pack Aesthetic, which is a modern trance and hard house sample pack, and it contains much more presets, samples, projects and more. So if you're into the sounds, make sure to check out the link in the description where you will find a full overview for the pack. If you guys have any suggestions or comments, just leave them down below, and don't forget to subscribe and hit a like, and then I will see you guys in our next video.